This is Between Hooksets. I'm Chasen Walter from In Through the Outdoors with my partner in slime, Kurt Underhill from the Fishing Crew. What's missing?
Your hook set.
Yeah, well, we're not hook setting today. Whatever. We're hunting. So
we're game fairing.
Yeah, we're game fairing. I'm very excited about tonight. Although before we pop Ron in, things are looking, or were looking, a little compromised near the game fair today. We'll find out from Ron what kind of weather they had. This is kind of the weather we're looking at here tonight. And it sounds like we're supposed to get hit now between 8 and 11. The National Weather Service talked about somewhere between 3 and 8. And so now that's all been pushed back. Most of the stuff is behind us or up north and east of us. So let's bring on our guest here tonight. I'm pretty excited about the conversation we're going to have because this is one we've not had before. I've had Ron on my In Through the Outdoors a couple of times. And this game fair is a big, huge event with grounds of its own, and we're going to learn all about it tonight with our guest, Ron Hustvedt. So, Ron, we welcome you in and on Between Hooksets. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, you've got a good podcast backdrop there in your office. Look at that.
I did one many years ago. I did one start like 04, 05. So back in the pioneering days, and then had kids, and it just got to be too much.
Well, that's okay, though. So here's the deal. Before we get going, I love to know what's in the background. So if you're able to explain, it looks like there's probably a duck there, maybe pheasant tail.
Yeah, we got a couple ducks.
Oh, yeah, a couple mallards there.
Landed on me. We got a mallard and a redhead there. I got a pheasant feather back there. Some family pics, an old public access sign that I found in the woods, and then a couple things that my dad's made back there. He's quite the woodworker.
I love it.
So some cool stuff from him. Yeah. So
I love it. You're going to have to, I apologize. You'll have to excuse me, but every once in a while, I'm going to have to check the weather because I'm on weather duty at the radio station. We just got a severe thunderstorm warning for Coddington, Dual, and Hamlin County in eastern South Dakota. That's north of me, so I'm okay yet. There's nothing you can do about Mother Nature, right? Now, did you see that picture?
I did.
Obviously, that kind of, that's in the game fair area there.
Oh yeah, that's I live 3 miles north of Game Fair, so the weather they get, it's the weather we get. I was up in central Minnesota today, though, taking my dad to a dentist appointment, and we drove down right through the heart of it was this big sort of bow echo storm.
Yeah,
and we hit it just perfect the whole way down. So,
of course.
Oh, you did.
That's 2 hours of driving. Yeah, 2 hours of storm driving.
So did you get a lot of the big wind with that bow echo?
It wasn't too bad. No.
Okay.
I mean, when it came through, you could feel it, but it wasn't too bad. It was severe here and there. My son is actually in Nebraska. That stuff you guys are getting. My son just got. He's on a Boy Scout trip in Kearney, Nebraska, on the way to New Mexico, and they had that weather you're getting. I hear that's a little nasty. So hopefully everything goes well for you guys.
I think Bismarck.
It's sun shining in Pier. That's all I gotta say.
Sun's
shining here.
The sun is shining here too, or at least it was. I hear Bismarck had 4.5 inch or grapefruit size hail. Was it last night?
Jeez.
That's
hey, let's get it out of the way before the 9th, 10th, 11th and Game Fair. Let's just get it done now, right?
We go on rain or shine. So whatever the weather is, we're here. It's an outdoors crew. And so
explain to the listeners and to us what Game Fair is.
Well, it's what it is today is it's a real huge family event. We got lots of families out there, lots of kids events. People can bring their dog. There's not many events out there, fairs, whatnot, where you can actually bring your dog with. And there's doggy games. There's things for the dogs to do. There's lots of stuff for the kids to do. There's lots of stuff for adults to do. So it's it's a full immersive sort of a deal. But it's an outdoors trade show, and it comes to the United States there's a strong European tradition with these game fairs where you've got, exhibitions, and you've got, like I said, dog events. There's some horse events that they do in the European versions of these, but Chuck and Lorelei Delaney are the ones who started this back in 1982, and they got the idea. Both of them were big time in the show business. Chuck was a show promoter going back to the 50s and the 60s. He ran, if you ever went to a sports show back in the day in Chicago or California or anywhere between there, you went to one of Chuck's shows. And, we're talking big time shows. And Lorelei Delaney, she grew up on What's the Game Fair grounds. That's her home. The Game Fair is located on Armstrong Boulevard, and her maiden name is Armstrong because it was named after her dad, who started Minnesota's first licensed game farm on what's that site now. But anyways, she grew up starting off as a 8-year-old kid. Her dad was a great dog trainer. She, from the moment she was born, was learning how to train dogs, and so she'd put these great shows on. She'd bring her dogs in, and they do all sorts of crazy stuff at these different shows. And that's how the two of them met. They were in the show business, him as the promoter, her as the entertainment. And then they sold that stuff in the late 70s and went to England on a trip, saw these game fairs going on there, and thought, well, we like the show business and we can bring this back. We got the perfect property for that. We've got these 80 acres. We got our own private lake on there and all this other stuff. Let's try this idea out. And it started off small and slow, but now it's catapulted into this massive event. There's about 50,000 people a year that attend game fair. There's about 300 exhibitors every year that are out there. And it's kind of fun. People come out there and they'll go up to Chuck and they'll say, yeah, I remember coming here when I was a kid, and now I'm bringing my kids back.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
It started off more as just like for the guys kind of a thing, because that was the crowd that went there. But you walk around game fair and it's all kids.
It's a family deal.
It is really a family event.
Pictures, and I've never been there. Love to go, but it looks like a serious family affair. Where is this thing really? I mean, it's right there, right where the I dropped the pin. It's
just use that little one arrow and you'll get there. It's located in Ramsey, Minnesota, which is right between Anoka and Elk River, northwest of the Twin Cities, northwest of Minneapolis, about 35 miles. So it's on the edge of the Twin Cities metro.
And it's 2 weeks, or 2 weekends rather. And there's a reason for having the 2 weekends. Both weekends aren't exactly the same either.
Both weekends are unique to each other, but it's because of weather. You get a rain out one weekend and you can wreck a whole show. And
you mean like this?
Yeah, well, exactly. No, we've had some years where one weekend was a total washout. Knock on wood, we've been lucky. We have not had too much. We haven't had a washout weekend. But the first couple of years they did it, they just did it on Labor Day weekend, and that was tough because of people closing down their cabins. It's a big cabin culture here in Minnesota, and there's also a huge, we've got one of the biggest state fairs in the country, and that goes until Labor Day. So they decided to move it back into August, so they're not competing with that, and that really helped it take off and get bigger and better. So it falls before on this August lull you get in Minnesota.
So if anybody has any questions, this is what it cost. It's pretty simple, and it's really family friendly. I mean, it's very economic to bring the family to go.
Yeah, and on Fridays, kids are free. So kids get in free with a paid adult. So that cost you saw there for kids doesn't apply on Fridays. And we get a lot of kids then. And then since you put that up there, that's you got that off of the gamefair.com website. If folks go to gamefair.com, they can also get a $2 off coupon cool. for admission. So I would remind people a couple times to check that out, because that's worth it.
So you say it's a family event and you can bring your dogs, but it's an outdoor sports show. So what is one expected to see when they get there? Like what some of your vendors or bigger exhibitors or even seminars go on? Explain what's all going on there.
Yeah. Well, so we've got, like I said, there's about 300 exhibitors. And there's a couple of same olds that are back every year. and then there's I'd say about a third of them are new. There's a just first year folks that are there. We've got dog trainers, and we've got dog handlers, dog breeders. We've got a lot of there's a lot of waterfall companies out there. A lot of guys making calls, a lot of decoy companies, a lot of folks that sell guided, doing different kinds of guided hunts, stuff like that, partial or full guiding. We've got that. A lot of manufacturers, Banded. Right when you walk in, Banded's got a gigantic tent, and they got a ton of gear, and it's all, great prices. And he literally brings in 2 semis full of stuff, and none of it leaves. it all goes. Some of our big, we've got a lot of conservation groups out there. Federal Premium Cartridge has got a big old booth out there. They also sponsor. They're a shotgun. I mean, it's also an event where you can bring a shotgun, cased obviously, but we have 2 shotgun shooting events that people can participate in if they'd like to. We've got Nora Ross, who is a phenomenal, world-class, Hall of Fame trap shooter, and she does a free deal where she talks about and teaches people about trap shooting. It's especially great, Minnesota. Trap shooting is a huge high school sport. My son was on the trap shooting team at his high school. The Minnesota State Trap Shoot brings in thousands of kids from across the state, so it's a big deal. And Nora Ross, Chuck brought her in so that she could help teach about that. And then at 2:30 every day, Nora and Lorelei Delaney with Against Sporting Arms, they do a ladies shotgun training as well. That's totally free. And Nora Ross gets flown around the country to go to sporting clubs and to private clubs, and people just hire her and she gets paid good bucks to teach people how to become a better trap shooter or skeet shooter, shotgunner. And she's available here for free. And so that's a phenomenal thing. Promoting the outdoors, promoting getting people outdoors, getting comfortable, gaining the confidence is what a lot of this event is all about. And so, Federal Premium Cartridge is one of our big sponsors. Sport Dog, there's a couple different e-collar companies that are here, but Sport Dog has got a big, huge tent out here. Eukanuba is a major sponsor, but I tell you, there's 4 or 5 major dog food companies out here. Kinetic is out here. Victor is out here. I shouldn't list them all because I'm going to forget a couple, but Champion Dog Food is out here. There's a lot of dog food companies, a lot of dog places that make dog equipment. Tom Dokken, the deadfall trainer that he invented way back in the day. Dokken has been out here since the beginning, and he puts on. We're talking about seminars. He's been one of our seminar speakers from day one, and I catch his seminar every year. And as a dog owner, I'm always learning new stuff from him. He does a different seminar. He's one of many different seminar speakers. We've got several seminar stages, and obviously, dog trainers are a big one. But there's turkey hunting, there's elk hunting, there's big game hunting, there's waterfowl calling, waterfowl hunting. We've got lots of different seminars that people can attend. We also have a kids waterfowling clinic. The kids all get a free duck call.
That's got to be fun.
Oh yeah, it tell you what, that's nothing better than having the kids go home with a duck call.
Yeah, right. Go home because there's not 500 of them calling on the damn thing.
Yeah.
Hours on end.
We just had our friends' families tournament this last weekend, and every year Delta Waterfall gives duck calls to the kids, but this year, and it was the most peaceful year ever.
Well, and you mentioned Delta Waterfall. There's a lot of conservation organizations out here as well. Delta, one of them. Ducks Unlimited is a big one. National Wild Turkey Federation. Pheasants Forever, actually, they kind of got their start out here at Game Fair. They just celebrated their anniversary. I think it was 30th anniversary, and that got its start out here at Game Fair. So Sporting Clays. You guys know what Sporting Clays is,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That pretty much that kind of got it started Game Fair way back in the day.
Really?
So it was
Yeah.
Delaney's that obviously, or was it Armstrong?
Well,
And-
Delaney is Chuck's name. Armstrong
Yep.
is Lorelei's name. So yeah,
Right.
that's her. She's a Delaney, but she's an Armstrong at birth. And yeah, that got it started out here way back early in the days of Game Fair. Nobody had ever heard of Sporting Clays. They said, let's try that out here. Let's see how it goes. And that helped. That was one of the things. I don't want to say it was all Game Fair, but it was definitely at the leading edge of getting the sport undergoing and helping it grow and get people to know what the heck it is. Just like I said with Pheasants Forever, same thing.
So there's a lot of stuff for dogs. Dogs are going to get wet. They're going to get dirty. They're going to have fun, right?
They're gonna have fun. There's hoses at all the dog events that have water, so don't worry, your dog won't be going home stinking like the swamp. But I mean, dog owners are already used to that kind of a lovely smell. Anyways, but yeah, no, there's lots of dog events going on. Some of them, I mean, they're all for fun, and so when I say dog events, I don't want people to get sort of intimidated that my dog's never jumped off a dock before. They've never done like a retrieve through an obstacle course before. It's for fun. And some people's dogs are superstars. You never knew your dog could do the obstacle course in 30 seconds and be one of the top dogs of the day. And you might think your dog is a total stud and no problem. And then they get distracted as they're running down there by the dog 2 minutes before that pee in that spot, and your dog stops there, or the dog's been so excited it stops to take care of its business halfway back, and it's a 2-minute retrieve, and you didn't claw. The dogs don't care. It's funny to see how some of the owners are like, "Oh man, my dog didn't do great." they'll have to go back and run the event again to see if their dog can get a better time. But it's for fun. But we also have trophies and prizes as well for a lot of the events. You can yeah, go ahead.
Is there people food and dog food there for everybody so they can get full? We don't have an empty tummy while doing the fair.
Well, it's a fair, so of course there's plenty of food. There's plenty of concessions throughout the fairgrounds, and a lot of just your typical fair food stuff. Hot dogs, burgers. There's walleye sandwiches.
Yeah, there you go.
That come on.
I love it.
Yeah.
You pout nuggets?
No pout nuggets, but definitely plenty of walleye. That's taken. So
that's awesome. Yeah. So if there's somebody listening or watching eventually here between now and Game Fair time next Friday, and then of course the 16th, somebody's going to watch this that maybe never been to Game Fair. So it's north of the Twin Cities. It's relatively easy to find, but what's the lure for somebody trying to decide, should I go? It might be a 4-hour drive for me. It might be a 5-hour drive, a 3-hour drive. How's it worth the trip?
Well, we've got some folks that come from Australia every year. So
there you go.
If it's worth their while, it's worth your while. But I mean, there's a lot of. I actually started coming out here before I started working for Chuck and with Chuck about 20 years ago now. So time flies. I would come out here, and there's so much to do. There's so much to see. If you're an outdoorsy person, you're not gonna be able to do it in one day. But I got a lot of friends that they don't hunt or they don't fish, and when they find out that I work at Game Fair, they see me running here and there because I'm kind of the problem solver guy. I'm like, oh, are you a hunter now? Like, no, but there's so much cool stuff to do. We love to come here and see the dogs. We sometimes they have a dog, not a sporting dog. They got a poodle or they got a schnauzer. They just like to be able to go somewhere and walk around with their dog and with their kids. And my kids grew up obviously now they work at Game Fair, but they grew up going to Game Fair and they wanted to go all the time. Just if nothing else, because they love watching the dogs jump off the dock. They love going and plinking away at the BB gun range or at the slingshot range. They love to see the trick shooter, who I didn't even talk about yet.
Oh, yeah.
Travis Mears is a trick shooter. He hails out of Texas, and you can understand him. Don't worry. He doesn't have too much of a draw there, but he puts on he does magic with a shotgun. He just puts on a heck of a show, and that's something Travis has been on here, I think 5 or 6 years now. But since the first game fair in '82, they've always had a trick shooter. Tom Knapp was out here for many years. John Satterwhite, if you've ever heard of him, the Gould brothers, some of the finest trick shooters that are out there have been here, and we've been lucky to have Travis for the last 5 or 6 years. He does some really cool stuff that some of those shows are in a tradition of trick shooting. But Travis has also mixed it up. So he does some of the stuff that if you've ever been to a shotgun trick shooting show before, you'll see some of those same things. You'll see the salad getting made, if you guys know what I'm talking about with that. If you haven't, you got to see that, how to make a shotgun salad. But Travis will get on one of these. He will trick shoot from a trampoline.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, a small round one, but it's still impressive. He does a selfie shot behind the back. So he's facing the crowd. He's got the camera up in front of him, and he'll take a shot using selfie mode on the camera to take the shot. And then he's also got one of those inversion, like a workout thing where you can be upside down.
Yep.
He'll shoot upside down and blast the targets that way. It's crazy. And he brings kids up. Kids will throw eggs, and it's kind of a speed race. They get to throw the eggs, and they get a point if they throw an egg and he can't shoot it. It's really cool. It's a really fun show, and he's always bringing something new to the act. So if you've never seen a trick shooting show, that alone is kind of worth the trip up here. But there's just lots of stuff to do, and it's a full immersive sort of a deal.
Okay, so on that, you mentioned the kids, and there's a bunch of stuff to do. There are a couple of different weekends before school starts for a lot of schools. So this is a great family weekend. I'm guessing there's got to be plenty of motels, hotels in the Ramsey area, the Twin Cities area. Yep. So lodging shouldn't be too much of a problem. We're early here yet, but for those that decide last minute.
Yeah, there is not a shortage of places to stay in and around the area here. Lots of hotels nearby. So folks, as far as lodging goes, there's even some campgrounds close by if people want to do it that way. And Minnesota's got a fantastic state park system. So a lot of one of the challenges of being an exhibitor at Game Fair is that it is over 2 weekends. It's just with everybody having a tough time getting enough employees. I mean, this has always been kind of an issue, but getting enough people to commit to 2 weekends can be tough. So, I mean, it's a tribute that we've got, like I said, a couple 300 exhibitors that are out here, but a lot of those folks are coming. I mean, they're coming from all across the country,
from everywhere.
We've even got folks we got like one of our exhibitors is from Finland, but we've got folks from East Coast, West Coast, and everywhere in between. But a lot of them do something in that week in between. So they'll go up to northern Minnesota and do a fishing trip on Lake of the Woods, or they'll go to central Minnesota, do Mille Lacs or Brainerd, stuff like that. So
work, vacation, work.
Exactly. So
Kurt, can you imagine having the Gov Cup again next weekend?
No. No, I'm still on a hangover from it.
Had enough. Well, I'll tell you what, this Game Fair thing is amazing. Here again are the prices. And Ron had mentioned earlier, if you just joined us, that if you go to gamefair.com, there is a coupon there. You can save $2. So instead of 15 or 10, it's 13 and 8. And the kids free thing. Explain that again, too.
Yeah, family days are Fridays. And so as long as those kids show up with an adult, the kids get in for free.
Okay, let me pop this up. I don't remember what it was. Oh, the family day thing.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, and I guess this little asterisk deal, I think that's why I brought this one in here, because I thought maybe people should see that too, that, you've got to have the required shots and rabies vaccination, et cetera, and the paperwork, especially, I suppose, if you're crossing state lines, et cetera. So just be prepared for that if you're coming. Yeah, well, so there's a dog registration form on the website, or you can fill it out at the gate. But we had 4,000 dogs in the last couple of years.
out here. That's
4,000.
4,000 dogs.
Jeez.
And we're very strict, there's no tolerance for any dogs that are not behaving themselves. And we really don't have to deal with that very often. Like hardly ever, but I have had to deal with that on a minor deal, which is, fortunate. But we obviously want to make sure that everybody's, taking care of stuff. The only reason that I've seen a dog having issues is because there's a lot going on. They get hyped up. When my wife would bring my kids over when they were too young to not work there yet, sometimes she'd bring the dog. Usually she wouldn't bring the dog because my dog is a hunting dog and she's a lab. And when she starts hearing the gunshots, or when she sees the dummies getting thrown, she's like, every dummy I want. I don't want to wait for that dog.
That'd be my chocolate lab.
So if some of the folks are coming, if they want to make a family weekend out of this, they're not hunting, and maybe they don't even have dogs, or maybe they have dogs. With all of those dogs like that, are we gonna have to worry about stepping in Scooby's Doo or?
No, we got lots of scoops around. We've got a grounds crew of kids that do a good job of keeping track of people who, if a person doesn't take care of it, some of our kids will take care of it right away.
Okay.
Yeah, but no, there's plenty of scoop stations, and most people are really good about taking care of their dog stuff.
I figured that, but here's a question I had to ask.
Yeah, no, that was a good question.
You went over a lot of things that happened there. What is your number one thing that goes on there that you like the most, and what would you like the number one thing for you?
Man, it kind of depends. The 11:30 show, which is the trick shooting. Before that is the dog event. So there's a doggy parade, and you see all these different breeds of dogs that come through. We've got lots of different dog clubs from across the state and the country, and so you get to see breeds that you don't really see that often and learn about. Just learning about and seeing these different dogs is a really cool deal. Obviously, besides the trick shooting show. And then I work with Ron Shera, who is a big outdoors personality in Minnesota for sure, but also throughout the Midwest. Yeah, definitely. But he's the MC of that, and we always work to get some of the new folks that are out there, some of the new things that are either new products or new exhibitors, and it's just fun to see those folks get up there and talk about what they do and share what they do. And I've seen all this stuff 20 years in a row and 6 days, so that's a lot of opportunities to see it. But that 11:30 show is always it's always a stitch to catch. That's always a great thing to see. So that alone is, I think, worth its weight in gold.
In 20 years of seeing this, what have you? The evolution has to be like hands down, like seeing different hunting products, seeing different.
Yeah.
I mean, 20 years ago, they're probably bringing the first robo ducks. 25 years ago, that was a new thing back then. Now you've seen the evolution of the game, and it's kind of funny in the decoy world. We went from, full body or shells to full bodies to silhouettes, back to full bodies. Now we're going back to skinnies and running silhouettes everywhere. So the evolution and the change, sometimes the old stuff comes back around, but that's got to be really cool for a guy like you. For 20 years, you walk by a booth and went, I saw that same thing 20 years ago.
Yep. Well, it's cool to see you walk by things and you're like, that might never work. And then that becomes the next big thing.
Yeah.
You definitely have, there's been, all the evolution of everything. With calls, acrylic calls were kind of rare back in the day. Now acrylic calls are the norm, but wood calls are also coming back as well.
We used to use flutes, and now you get looked at weird if you had a flute.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go. And shotgun shells, that's
that's changed quite a bit.
That has changed quite a bit.
Lead steel and
and Black Cloud was rolled out here. Federal Premium Cartridge is located. Their headquarters are right here in Anoka, and they've been actually a part of Armstrong Ranch since before. I mean, the Federal Gun Club was owned by Chuck and Lorelei Delaney. And they grew up, they just celebrated their 100th, and the Armstrong Ranch Kennels is 97 years old. And so that company grew up, and this is where they would test their stuff. This is where they'd like Chuck and Lorelai. If Chuck lists the people who have been out here, it is literally a who's who of the sports world. You know, like Mickey Mantle is a good friend of theirs. You name the ball and football player, baseball and football player. They have been out here either to go to the game farm or they board their dogs here. You know, the Vikings, the Timberwolves, the Twins, all those guys. This is where they would come, and this is where they still come to like board their dogs. But it's just there's such a neat history of this place in this area, and it's really cool to see how it's evolved. 20 years ago, it was still, I'd say, like maybe more of still like not as many families as there are now. And now everywhere, you know, there's people, there's kids in wagons, there's kids, there's babies that folks are walking around here. And like I said, my kids grew up coming here, and it was it's just a great family thing. But then there's also plenty of stuff to do if you just want to do the outdoorsy stuff.
So I guess we're kind of getting to that point where we'll wrap up, but you talk about evolution and dogs. How about the evolution of dogs over the last 20 years? Breeds. I realize they're not walking on their hind legs or still on all four and wagging their tails.
Yeah,
Some don't have tails anymore. But yeah, but the dogs had to have changed quite a bit over the last 20 years.
Yeah, dogs, as far as just like with the breeds that you see in the sporting world. You know, back in the day, you never knew what a Malinois was, and now we've got Malinois that are out here in Dutchies that people are walking around, and you know, winning some of the dog jumping events and the time stuff. And then, like, well, to go with the dog stuff, how the nutrition has evolved tremendously, from just throwing some stuff together and call it dog food to the high performance stuff that we have today. I mean, these dogs are getting fed better than your average person with just what's packed into that kibble. And then like the e-collar stuff, you know, back in the day, those e-collars, you know, they were crossing those dogs' eyes and stuff like that. And today with the vibration or the wobbles, those kind of came and went. And the call, it's neat to see how that's evolved. And then dog training techniques is also very much evolved. There was a lot more of a harder style back in the day, and that has really evolved over time. And people are getting better dogs out of these new methods. And that's one of those things that, you know, when you stop and think back over 20 years, you're like, gosh, a lot has really evolved and a lot has really changed. You don't necessarily feel that in the year to year, but yeah, it's a totally different world. It's a totally different sport now than it was back then.
Fantastic, Ron. It's great to have you. We're getting some weather changes here. I'm getting a note on my phone, so I think we're at a good place to wrap it up. Appreciate your time. Thank you for hanging with us, being with us. Got a couple of weekends coming up, August 9th, 10th, 11th, 16th, 17th, 18th. Go to gamefair.com, get all the information. We've got it right there on the screen, easy enough to find. And there's just a ton of information there, you know, and you know, I don't know if anybody can call to ask questions or just go to the website. You'll find what you need.
You got it. The website's got a lot of stuff. If you go to our social medias, we're at Game Fair USA on Instagram and Facebook. If you just type in Game Fair, you'll either find the British one or you'll find the American one. So
awesome.
That's the way to go. But yeah, you can also, you know, message on social media. I'm the guy who answers all those. So I'd love to hear from people that way. And if you come on out, stop by the info booth, say hi to Chuck, and look for me as well.
Appreciate it. Ron, thank you much.
Thanks so much, guys.
Hey,
great to be here.
Your time.
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Take care. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Oh, yeah,